I'd like to talk to you today, though, more in a generic scale and more of an educational format so that you can kind of learn a little bit more about CRM and kind of the way it works, learn about a few things about implementation that might be able to help you and your business, and talk to you a little bit about how you can leverage CRM and the technology to make your business more successful. So really what we have here, that bridge really symbolizes what the CRM should be doing for you. A lot of companies implement a CRM and they're caught behind what essentially they feel like is this wave of continuous changes to their organization, a lot of work that has to go into making a CRM work and successful, when in fact it should be building bridges between you and your clients. And essentially what we're going to show you is how CRM should be working to do that. So a lot of people have different images in their head of what they think CRM is, customer relationship management. And really on a very basic level, someone will tell you that CRM allows you to connect your business with your contacts, keeping track of when you last had a meeting with them, when you last had a phone call with them. And on the basic level, that's very true. But when you try to take a CRM and apply it to every business, usually there are a lot of things that are different. If you sell widgets or software or services, or if you, regardless of what industry that you're in, there's always this need to keep track of your clients. But how you do that is very different. And so what you want to do is look at the way your business does business. So this is more about the process of running your business. And so what you see here is sort of a picture of the traditional way that CRM generally works, and traditionally the way most businesses work. If you have more than one or two people, generally you've got this corporate structure where things tend to be separated. And so on the left side we see a lot of what people consider to be CRM, where you're managing your customers. And a lot of people think that CRM is about keeping track of the people that you're trying to sell stuff to. So that's important. You do want to keep track of the people you're trying to sell stuff to, and usually it comes from some directive from above that says, this is how we want to drive sales. And it kind of flows downhill, like most things, where you can see, COO, you got sales, and then you've got people keeping track of things like CRM data that you would typically store in like a Salesforce, or what you would tend to use for your CRM. I met with this person, I talked to this person. And then in another part of the business, you've got the marketing team. And generally the marketing team doesn't really talk very much to the sales team. And generally they're saying, well, we need to bring people in to give awareness to what we do, and we hope that eventually that will lead to them maybe filling out a form, and then that triggers the sales process. And essentially you have this wall between the two, and the marketing people might talk a little bit to the salespeople, but a lot of the data that they collect doesn't immediately get transferred over to the salespeople. It doesn't get moved over in a way that they can actually use it. So when you have marketing people out sending email newsletters, for example, you might have a prospect that opened that email newsletter and maybe they clicked on a link because they were interested in something that you sold, but you don't really know that if there's this brick wall up between your marketing team and your sales team. There's also other things that the sales team or the marketing team might track. They might track website traffic. They might say, well, this person, or we have maybe 100 visits to our website today, and maybe we had 50 yesterday, and we think that maybe with this great announcement we'll have 200 people tomorrow. But what does that mean? If your marketing people are off operating on their own and not directly talking to your salespeople, you have isolation of information. That brick wall that goes up there. And then, of course, on the far right side, you've got operations. You've got people that are actually doing things. The people that actually create the things that you sell. And what happens there? Does those people have some sort of a way to interact directly with the customer? Do you want them to be able to do that? Do they react to the marketing team? And the issue that most companies will tell you is that every one of these different functions that you tend to see in most companies are treated as silos. They're not ways for people to share information easily between all of them. So there are certain reasons why people might set up a company to work this way. Generally, people that are very entrenched in an organization where people are creating their empire. So you have, in a lot of ways, you might have the marketing officer that says, I want my marketing people just to do my marketing, and you salespeople cannot talk to them. It gives them an illusion of controlling information, and information is power. So rather than sharing, it makes it very easy for these different operating units to sort of run in isolation. It removes some accountability. Of course, the problem with that is it can be expensive, and it requires a lot of people in place to take information from one place to another. So if you have your salespeople not directly interfacing with the marketing information, they have to figure out some way to get that data over. So if you have, say, a marketing campaign that you want to run and you want to target it to your salespeople or to your leads, someone has to take that data from one place to another across that brick wall. And so there are better ways to do that, and there are solutions out there that exist to do that. And what we want to do is provide an alternative to this traditional model, a way to simplify the way you do business. So there are many companies out there that provide CRM services. Most people have heard of Oracle, Siebel, Salesforce.com. There are a lot of other companies that are popping up now that provide an alternative to these sort of old school ways of doing business. This alternative takes a more holistic view of how you run your business. You do not have to keep CRM sitting on its own. You do not have to keep your marketing team with their data isolated from everybody else. You don't have to keep your operations data isolated from everybody else. You can create a unified platform. It's what the term that we call it is a business operating system. So how does it work? How do you actually make some sort of an integrated thing work in a business? Anytime you have to transcend across different functional units in a company, you've got people that are going to resist change. It's just human nature. People resist the things that they don't know. So to make something like this work, you have to approach it with a strategy. So the first thing is understanding that you need buy-in from everybody. So to use our analogy, the strength of a rope comes from its strands. You have different functional units. The more they're able to work together and share information, the stronger the entire organization becomes. The second is you need to actually have a strategy, meaning what are we going to do with our CRM? Why is that useful? What sort of marketing do we do, and what sort of information is going to be useful for us? What are we going to use it for? Are we going to sell directly to these people? So, who are our leads, who are our prospects, who are our vendors, identifying who these different groups of people are. Approach CRM with a strategy before you go down the road of implementing it. So don't just buy software blindly and assume that your CRM software is just going to fix everything. That's why a lot of times people will tell you that the CRM implementation has failed. So the third one is make sure you define your information ahead of time. Understand what you need to collect from everyone, all of your contacts. You've got potential leads. Well, what do those leads look like? What information is valuable to you? Are you selling services where you care about the size of their company? Are you concerned about their position, their buying power? All of these things that you might want to fold into the CRM to better categorize who your contacts are. This is all part of the upfront strategy and planning, but you want to make sure that you have the ability to customize the information you're collecting. Think about it ahead of time before you go diving too far down the road of how to create a good CRM for your business. Understand that not everyone in your business needs to have access to your CRM. And you also have to understand that not everyone should have access to everything. Your sales manager probably should see all of the sales-related information, but does your sales manager need to have the ability to go in and send email marketing campaigns? Probably not, but maybe they do. So consider who needs to have access to what and make sure that whatever software you use for implementing your CRM for your business has those controls to make sure that someone can't just go in and have access to everything with one single login. You'll find this a lot with a lot of very focused products. So if any of you have ever used Constant Contact, for example, they don't have multiple user access, which means that anyone that has access to log into your account can see everything. And that also means that those people can download your data. There's a lot of security issues that are associated with that. So you want to make sure that you've got data protection policies in place and that you have the ability to lock out the people that don't have the ability to get into your account, because the last thing you need is an intern logging into your system and stealing all of your contacts. The last thing is be committed to use it. You've put a lot of information into a CRM. The more valuable it is, it becomes more valuable as you put more information into it, which means you're using it more. That means when you make phone calls, put those notes in. So the next time you have to call that person, you know when the last time you called that person is. If you've got website tracking and marketing automation tools built in, use them. Take advantage of drip campaigns, different things that you can do to get your marketing out in front of your clients and your prospects. And so I want to talk a little bit about marketing automation and what it is. A lot of people have not really ever used marketing automation because they don't really understand what the value of it is. Have any of you actually used marketing automation tools? You know what those are? So marketing automation is something you do for your business to streamline the way you do things. It's all about efficiency. We have software. So software is created to make our lives easier, not make our lives harder, which is what ends up happening a lot of the time. But if we can actually make it easier, we can use marketing automation as a way to save time. So marketing automation means that you're setting up processes, workflows, as a way to save yourself the time. So let's say, for example, you meet somebody at this event here today. You might want to send them an email following up with them today, maybe tonight. But maybe 2 or 3 days from now, you want to send a follow-up email to them saying, hey, here's something about my product or service that you may not have known about. Something that would trigger their memory. Maybe the first time you talk to them, they're not going to be responsive, but when they learn a little bit more, they will respond. You don't want to have to sit in front of your computer 2 days from now, 4 days from now, 7 days from now, whenever you want to set these things up, and actually go in and manually build and send emails to all of these people. Marketing automation allows you to set up one series of emails and send those emails automatically to people on sequence without you having to actually go and do it manually. So marketing, that's one specific application, but marketing automation as a term just means making sure that your marketing is saving you time and doing things in an automatic fashion. So this is something that you'll hear when you talk to people in this space, and software and marketing executives and advertising executives. Everyone likes to say something is dead. So first it was print a while back, and now people say, no, print is not dead, it's coming back. Pay-per-click campaigns, oh, there's too much click fraud, and then people come back and they do it. There's email, SMS. People will tell you things are dead all the time. The truth is, these are all part of a marketing mix. And so when you start learning about marketing automation and different marketing tools that are available that synchronize with your CRM, you look at how all of these things can mix with your marketing, with your whole marketing plan. So email marketing is something that we've done for a long time. We actually started in the email marketing space, and so I wanted to share a little bit of information about email marketing that you might find useful. Email marketing is one of those things that a lot of people have received newsletters of some kind from some service provider. The truth is it works. So as many times as people will say, go social, go social, go social, the truth is if you go email, you're making sure your message is showing up in somebody's inbox that you know. You're not getting hidden behind Facebook's unknown algorithm of whether or not they're going to display your ad or not. It's one of those things that actually drives action. If you see there, 1/3 of repeat purchasers initiated their response from an email, which means if somebody bought something from you and you're trying to sell them a product or a service again, it actually will work. 77% of consumers prefer permission marketing via email. That means they don't want to be sent text messages. They don't want to be sent lots of postcards. Email is an efficient way for them to get your message. As long as it's very clear and not polluted and cluttered with a lot of extraneous information, you can use that as an effective tool. And I thought the last one was pretty interesting from a survey that was taken last year, that 58% of people actually, one of the primary reason for them being on an email list is for a discount. So if you break that down into something a little bit more fundamental, it's more about what are you doing for me? So if you do email communications, especially newsletters or en masse type of communication, if you have something of value, something of substance, so sometimes it's educational, sometimes it's something that someone may not know about, maybe it's a link to a white paper, but when you actually have something that gives someone a benefit for receiving that email, they're going to appreciate receiving it. So sending out emails to a lot of people do require some things to be familiar with. One of those is a Center Policy Framework. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's a little bit more on the techie side. Domain keys, DMARC, these are all different ways that you can make sure your messages get into people's inboxes and not into their spam folders. Anyone that you work with to send out your emails to a lot of people, should have this in place for you, or should show you how to do this for your domain. Open rates are one of those things that are fuzzy calculations, and you might hear from your email service provider, whether you're using MailChimp or Constant Contact or us, Green or whatever. Don't overemphasize the importance of an open rate. And the reason is because people are getting used to reading content without downloading images. So it's important, but look at it relative to other messages that you send out, and consider that your design actually has a lot to do with whether or not an email is opened. When you are designing your emails, understand that over a third of the people that read them are reading them on their smartphone. So when you look at something on a smartphone, the important thing to consider is that they are very much narrower than what you're expecting to see on a PC. So don't try and make an email that's 3 columns wide, because when it shows up on somebody's inbox, the only way for them to read it is to use 2 fingers and scan in, and people just don't like to do that. People prefer to read linearly, top to bottom. So design with 1 single column. You might want to do some design elements on the sides or above or below, but don't make it too wide or people are not going to read it. Be responsible. Don't send out spam. We all know that spam is bad. And of course, test your messages. When you send messages out, test them. Look at who responds to what. Your email program should be able to look at all the emails that you send out and say, you had 20% of people that read it. Well, if you're interested in a particular demographic, it should be able to tell you, well, I'm interested in how males responded versus females, or people in California versus people in Nevada. You should be able to identify those as part of your tracking package. So make sure that your software allows you to do the testing that you need to do. There's also a term that you might hear bannered around called A/B list split testing, which allows you to take part of your list and test it first before you send it out to your main list. So I suggest that if you are sending to a large group, do that A/B list split testing. It allows you to identify what campaigns are going to work before you send an email out to absolutely everybody. So a real CRM should be able to combine the things that I was just telling you about email marketing with things like drip campaigns, so that when someone gets added to your account, they can automatically be sent emails. Or if somebody purchases something from you, they convert. A conversion is another term that you'll see thrown around, which means somebody bought something from you, whether it's a product or a service. All of that information should show up in your CRM. You should be able to see your one-to-one emails from your inbox that you send. You should be able to see those in your CRM when you call up that data. You should be able to send SMS messages and see what their responses were. You should be able to see what they look like, what interactions they've had on your social networks. All of these things should flow into your CRM. And with that information, create for you business continuity, business security, and the ability for you to send targeted messaging to those people. So whether that's targeted emails, SMS messages, having specialized landing pages that you can design and build for people to draw them to your brand, to your site, all of these things should be included in your CRM. Now, in the traditional model, generally what people will do is they'll say, well, I'm going to buy Salesforce, and then I'm going to buy a different piece of software to integrate with all of these different things. As you can imagine, the more of these different things you try to integrate with a CRM, the more complicated your life becomes. So the answer may not be for your business to do things what a lot of us consider the hard way, where you have to take data in and out and you have to buy a different piece of software to do that synchronization. It's not necessary. And here are a few solutions. You'll notice that Salesforce is not on there. There are not a lot of companies out there that have done this because it's a different way of looking at business. It's an integrated, holistic view of how to run your business. So CRMheadquarters.com is a site that looks at software, at CRM packages and what they do. And this isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all thing. It's almost like the size of your engine. So just because you do a lot of things may not mean that that's exactly what you want to do. But take a look at an alternative way of doing business. Consider that you don't need to buy the behemoth expensive piece of software and then pay for the really expensive plugin and all the really expensive different components to try and plug them in. Consider that there is an alternative to the traditional way of doing business, one that is more efficient and more effective, and hopefully through one of these solutions you'll be able to find a way to create a business operations system that makes your business more successful and grow. With that, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.